Welcome to another episode of Home Therapy with Anita Yokota. That's me. I'm thrilled to have a special guest with us today, the talented Casey Finn from DIY Playbook. Her journey into the world of DIY home decor began after college. She wanted to find ways to update her apartment, and she got married, and now she and her partner are undertaking the exciting project of renovating their 100-year-old house. So sit down with us as we talk about the world of renovating, exploring the significance of color in shaping our mood at home. It's not just about decor, but also about parenting, setting boundaries, the importance of self-care, and maintaining a balanced life. Get ready for an insightful and inspiring conversation with Casey Finn on Home Therapy Podcast with me, Anita Yokota. Well, Casey, I just feel like we were meant to be together today to chat about all things home design, DIYs, parenting, being a creative, working mom, business entrepreneur. You have gone through so many different seasons. I'm just so happy you're here with us to share your wisdom and your creativity with the listeners. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Anita. I love all of those topics. I'm excited to chat about each and every one of them.
Absolutely. I wanted to jump in on just where you started, your roots, because I think when we are creatives and when we love home design, that's so much about our childhood, right? And our upbringing and what influenced us and what people influenced us. So I know you went to Notre Dame. Does that mean that you grew up in Chicago, or where did you grow up and who influenced you? Tell us more.
So yes, I grew up in a suburb of Chicago, and I pretty much lived in the Midwest my entire life. I went to school at Notre Dame in Indiana. And then after school, I lived in Wisconsin and down in St. Louis. But I've been back here in Chicago for the last 11 years or so. And I just love this city. And I'm saying that on a day that is so gross outside. It's so cold and gray. But if I could say I like Chicago in January, then I truly like it. So it's a wonderful place. Yes. We say that it makes us tough. Like if we can do a Chicago winter, we can do anything. And then it makes the summers just that much more glorious.
I find this really interesting because, as you know, this podcast is brand new, but what's been really fun is to get to know my creative friends on a, more intimate level. And the people that I'm drawn to have so many parallels. It's so funny because even though Seattle is not Chicago, the weather is pretty dreary and gloomy during the winter months. And of course, the summer months are glorious. So I'm just like, oh my God, there's so many parallels.
It gives you grit, right? Like it gives you
major grit. But you know what other parallel that, as we're talking about your roots and stuff, is later on. I first want to hear more about your childhood and how home design even began, which I think involves clouds. But yeah, like just your pivot as well, because I pivoted from 20 years of doing therapy, helping people that way. And then now I'm doing interior design, but you also pivoted. So we're going to jump on that, but let's rewind a little bit and share your creativity at home as a teen, as a child. Were there people at home that influenced you?
I would say my mom has always been my creative driving force, and she still is. She's my best friend. She lives about 10 minutes from here, so we're always together. But growing up, she was the ultimate decorator. She would make our home feel so special for the holidays. Every season, she would do creative things, and she's really good at gardening and flowers. So I would watch her and just see this woman who could do anything. And I always say that she kind of instilled in me the motto that everything is figure outable. And especially with this job, I do a lot of DIY projects that I've never done before, or use a tool that I really don't know how to use. But I'm always saying, if anyone can figure it out, I can. And she really instilled that in me. She's just very hardworking and determined, doesn't like to sit still, is always on the go. So I think from a young age, she modeled that for me. The creative spirit, the creating a home that all the kids would want to come back to, all of our friends. Our house was the one to always be at. So my mom really showed me how it's done. And even now, she's such a big part of obviously my life, and I will wrangle her in to do projects every now and then. And we're always doing fun stuff together. So I'd say she's definitely my inspiration.
I love that so much. And so there was a time where you wanted clouds.
Oh, yes, the clouds. Anita's going to bring up the clouds. Yes. So I think, back in the maybe early 2000s as a teenager, I had a light blue and brown bedroom color scheme. My mom would let me choose, redecorate my bedroom regularly, which I appreciated. And yeah, I had like a brown comforter and blue pillows. And I was like, you know what we really need? We need clouds on the ceiling. So we painted clouds on the ceiling. And it was so fun because, she let me do those things and she let me be a part of it. And, now I have a wallpapered ceiling in our bedroom. And so I guess I love to be able to lay in bed and look up and see something beautiful up there. So yes, I haven't thought about those clouds in a long time. So I'm happy you brought it up because it just brings back fun memories for me. I'll have to text my mom after this and be like, guess what I talked to Anita about? The clouds.
I think we forget how our core memories at home of how it's shaped us today. And so I always like finding little nuggets of these core memories. As you know, as a therapist, there's so much more in our homes that impact us that we realize. And especially when I wrote the book during the pandemic, all of us were just locked up. And I realized, oh my goodness, like we can't even go see a therapist. So how does our home serve us right now and in the past and the present, the future? So I love hearing your core memories of how you became you, because you are so special and you bring so much to the DIY design world, but also as I just see everyone as a true light, encouraging others to, for me, it's like using our home as a place to gain confidence in ourselves and challenges and mental. Like, as you know, DIY includes a lot of grit. Like, you got to have a mental toughness to complete the project. And I think you are great at inspiring that. And so after college, you went to work. Tell us about the pivot. I get asked that question all the time. How did you pivot from therapy to interior design? Well, how did you pivot?
Yeah, so I worked as a TV reporter. So I was in news. Yes. Ever since I was a kid, I loved writing. I loved storytelling, which, I think kind of lends itself to what I do now. But absolutely. I studied journalism at Notre Dame. And then I moved to a small town in Wisconsin, like the day after graduation. And I was a news reporter in this small town, didn't know anyone. And I did everything myself. I was shooting everything, editing it on camera, rushing back to be there for the 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock news. So it was such a good job because, it taught me so much. I had to be quick. I had to do everything on my own. I had to navigate this entire new town and figure out who to call to get an interview. So it was a great job. And I had always wanted to work in television. So I did that in Wisconsin. And then I moved to St. Louis and did the same and ended up getting a job as a producer, which was great because here I was going to have a cameraman and an editor, and I would be, the one writing and hosting in these videos. But I kind of found that, it wasn't as fast paced as news. And I got a little bored. And so, I was able to complete my work within the first couple of days of the week. And I was left like, okay, what do I do the rest of this time? I had come from this news world where everything was on the go, and now things had slowed down. So back at home, outside of my work life, I was really starting to fall in love with DIY. I was moving around in these different apartments and I wanted to make them look good. I didn't have a lot of money. So I turned to thrifting and antiques and DIY projects. So I was like, I'm going to start a blog. So 2013, I start the DIY Playbook, mostly as a way to share all the projects I was doing in my apartments with my family back home and show them, hey, look at this cool bookcase I found and spruced up. So I just started it like that, just as a place to document everything I was doing.
Did you have an aha moment of like, oh, I I think I can do this. I can pivot. Was there
Yeah.
a
Well,
significant, or was it kind of just slow, like a slow
it was
progression?
pretty slow because I then moved back to Chicago. My husband and I got married. I was still working in TV. I actually produced a DIY show here in Chicago where I learned a lot about DIY, a little bit more of like the home repair side. So that gave me a little more confidence. And I was juggling both at the time. I was working full time in TV. I was doing the blog full time at nights and weekends. And it was a lot. It was, so many hours a week. And eventually the blog got large enough that I was able to shift and lead my career in TV and do the blog full time, which was, I think, back in like 2017. So yeah, it's been quite a journey. And I still feel like I use a lot of that journalism background and the on-camera skills that I learned from my career today, because, I'm constantly writing, constantly on camera, I guess on Instagram and things like that. So it's weird how it's morphed.
Well, they say transferable skills.
Mm-hmm.
It's really interesting. I have some creatives who had a graphic design background and now they're doing interior design, which really is not a far stretch, right? If you think about it. So with you, it's the journalism and the on camera, which is so important. Like, that's one thing that I did not anticipate was, as being a content creator, is we wear so many different hats, right? That we probably didn't anticipate on. We probably anticipated on the DIYs, the creativity, the design, but the background of having to write things and creating content, I really did not expect how many skills I had to practice and hone in on for that end. So hats off to you. And it's always nice to have a strong writing background.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. So it's fun. It's gotten me to where I am today.
That's amazing. And so, okay, so we pivot, and I know your new house, or I think it's
New old
fairly new.
house.
Yeah, new old house. It's 100 years old.
Yes, it was built in 1921. So yeah, we have a little century plaque on the outside once we hit our 100 years, which was really exciting.
So does it count as like a historical house in the city where you can't like do major changes?
Not quite, because like the exterior it's a red brick bungalow. So we have like that authentic red brick that you'll find in Chicago that was here from the 20s. So the exterior, we will never change. We will never paint the red brick. It is very special to us. Unfortunately, the entire interior there were so many additions over the 100 years that all of the character was stripped away when we bought it in 2019. So when we purchased it, I say it was kind of like beige on beige on beige, just like a big orange box, oak floors, oak cabinets, hollow core doors, none of the craftsmanship and character that you would think you would find in a 1920s house. So what I've done or tried to do over the last 5 years is to inject that character back into it. So we immediately added new chunkier millwork everywhere. I replaced all of the doors and they're now the craftsman style solid doors. I've added a lot of color, a lot of wood wall treatments, wallpaper. So now I like to think that it reflects more of a traditional home from the 20s. Whereas when we got it, it was just very like 90s beige. Yeah.
That's so fascinating that you're almost going back in time to bring it, to restore it. When you mention craftsmen, I think of Frank Lloyd Wright, and he's one of my favorite architects. My dad's an architect, so I grew up hearing about different architects. And when I went to Chicago, it was so fun to take a tour of one of his residences. Maybe it was his main one. And so for you, I know for me in Seattle, there's a huge Scandinavian community. And so the Scandinavian minimalist, mid-century modern, that really impacted my dad's work and how I perceive design. So I'm really curious, do you find where you grew up, or just architecture from the city, and obviously now in restoring a historic home, how has that impacted your design flair and style?
I love that question. So actually our home growing up, we built it when I was a young kid, and my parents designed it after they were inspired by Frank Lloyd Wright. obviously so huge here in Chicago. So our home growing up was the prairie style. We had really large windows. We backed up to a creek. So a lot of the nature that Frank Lloyd Wright loved to incorporate, clean lines, a lot of natural light. So at the time as a kid, I didn't really understand it, but now I look back at that home and appreciate it so much, just that beautiful prairie style. But yes, I mean, I always tell people if they come to Chicago, come May through October and do the Chicago Architectural Boat Tour. I usually don't really tell people to do touristy things, but this is the one that I'm like, you have to do this.
Okay.
We have the Chicago River that goes right through downtown, and you take this boat tour and it goes along the river and you look up at all of these buildings and they tell you about all of them, when they were built, who designed them, and you get all of the history behind it. And it's just such a unique way to see the city. So if anyone comes to Chicago and you're listening, do that because it's so, so wonderful. And you leave with such an appreciation for the beautiful architecture that we have here.
I truly believe Chicago has a very special history with architecture. I think that's what drew me to the city when I visited. Well, we're talking about historic homes and you mentioned color. And I noticed something that really surprised me. And I'm curious your thoughts and reaction too as well. I didn't know in the early 1900s how much color they loved. Like there's like robin's egg blue, which doesn't surprise me, but there's purples and oranges, and they're all historical colors. In fact, when I was in Washington, D.C., when I was invited to decorate for the holidays at the White House, Abraham Lincoln's, every president chose their china, their dinnerware, and his was purple.
Whoa, that's awesome.
Isn't that
purple
fascinating?
China. I want purple china. That sounds so fun.
It was this really...
Go Abe.
Yes, like it was a rich, deep purple mauve. And that was the color. I'm like, and then I think was reading something about historical colors, or Sherwin-Williams had some palette, and there were so many bright oranges, pinks, purples, blues, and greens. Have you researched about color, and what colors have you injected in your historical home? Were there any surprises?
Yes. I do love me some color. I'd say that I kind of lean a little bit more towards like an earthy palette. I have a lot of blues and greens in my house. So I have them right to the right of me. I have navy blue built-ins. My daughter's room is a sage green. My son's room is a really deep, dark green. Our room is kind of like a calming light blue. So I really gravitate towards those earthy colors, like organic modern, I guess is how I would describe our style here. And also injecting color with wallpaper. I feel like I have wallpaper in many rooms in my home. I've got a wall mural here. I've got another one in the basement. So I think that's another fun way to not only inject color, but to inject pattern too. I
am entering my wallpaper era phase 2.
I saw your bathroom. It's mushrooms. It's so cool.
It's fun. I like visual cues of what makes me happy. Maybe it's because growing up in Seattle, there's so many forests and woodlands. Mm-hmm. It just makes me feel so cozy and at home. And you've seen the trend of just mushrooms. Gen Zers love mushrooms. So there's everything mushrooms, mushroom lamps, mushroom blankets, mushroom socks. I just saw this and it's from Amazon, right? Like, hello.
Yeah.
It's super affordable and it's peel and stick.
Yes.
With your experience with wallpaper, do you have a tried and true advice for first-time beginners? Because it's so tricky to get it straight. That's the issue I have, is it always starts going astray, and it's so frustrating. So
I applaud you for starting with peel and stick, because I always find that peel and stick is the hardest.
Really?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah, I've tried peel and stick a few times, and it's so hard because there's not a lot of forgiveness. You get it up there, and then to move it, it's it's already stuck. So I have done pretty much all of the different kinds of wallpaper, the booking technique, the paste wall.
Which I didn't feel, okay,
the booking is tricky.
Yes. Tell me which method, for a beginner, give us the fast track.
Yes. I would always recommend paste the wall wallpaper. So really you're taking the paste, you're slapping it on the wall, and then you're able to get the wallpaper up there. And there's so much room for forgiveness. You can move it around, shift it. it's kind of glides right over the glue. So you have a lot of time to get it right. Whereas with the peel and stick, oh my goodness, I've done that maybe once or twice and I'm like, never again, never again. But they have so many beautiful ones and they're so affordable. So yeah, now I just stick to the paste the wall. I recently helped a neighbor wallpaper her bathroom and she chose the booking method, which I don't love, but we made it through. So yeah, I say do paste the wall if you're going to do it.
Okay. And so, because when I get instructions from the wallpaper with the paste, they immediately tell me the booking method. And me and Travis were like going to scream because I don't know.
It's messy too.
It's messy. Yeah. And I thought we were doing I thought it was like a hard, fast rule to not put paste on the wall before but now I'm like, oh, if Casey says it's okay, I'm going to do that.
Yeah. It depends on the paper. Some require the booking, others paste the wall. If you're like fine and going through a few different kinds, go with the one you can paste the wall because it's going to save you time.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you for that because
I wish we could wallpaper together because it's a fun project. Yeah.
That's the one thing about it's like through social media, we get to meet so many wonderful friends, but then it's like, I just want to go out and see a movie with, like a new friend. It's like, why can't we do that?
Yeah. Go antique shopping or do a project together.
Yes. So then where does self-care come in for you at home? I know you were so kind to read my book and I'm just really curious, my 4 domains and that renewal domain. Where do you find your renewal?
I do a lot of yoga. So I'm a morning workout girl. So I do a 5:45 a.m. workout class. I have like my little yoga group of women that I see, all the early risers are there, mostly fellow moms who are trying to get it done before the busy day starts and their kids wake up. So yeah, so I found a lot of, me time with that. Here in Chicago, we have such a great community. And just on my block, there are 10 women. We're in a book club. We all have kids the same age. So we get together once a month and we'll go out to dinner. We'll go to each other's houses. We just did the spa in December. We did like a whole spa day, all of the ladies. So, being with friends, taking the night off of doing the kid duty, that's definitely where I find Casey again.
And then how about inside the home, just in your own home? Do you have places of respite? How do you, because you sound like me, we're very energetic. We are more, as I'm getting older, I'm more of an ambivert. We draw energy from being with people. Yeah. But at the same time, we still need some individual time. So where in your home, because I'm sure the kids overtake every space, how do you find that little corner or space for yourself?
Yeah, it's tough. I will say it's tough. They're everywhere. Those kids. Definitely our bedroom. Our bedroom, we've made this nice calming retreat. I mentioned it's this beautiful grayish blue color. I've got the wallpaper on the ceiling. It's just very minimal decor in there. It's just a nice place to go and relax. And we have, great mood lighting at night with lamps and sconces. So the bedroom is definitely a place where I will go. I'm a big journaler as well. So I'll journal in there. And I love the feeling of our home at night once the kids go to bed and everything is cleaned up. My husband and I will sit on the couch and have a glass of wine and just be together. So the living room and the bedroom are definitely the places to unwind. And in the summer, we have this fantastic backyard. Even, here in the city, having outdoor spaces is so wonderful. So we've really made the most of it. We've got string lights out there. We redid our whole patio 2 years ago. And we'll go out there and just sit and chat, and it's wonderful. And on the weekends, my husband loves a good afternoon nap out there. So that's where he gets his self-care.
I was going to say naps are always a good thing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Well, we need to wind down, which everybody laughs when I say that because it sounds like we're in therapy. But it's just it's like it's just a habit. It's like, let's wind down now. I just feel like I have 5 million more questions to get to know you and get insight from you. We've covered so many fun things already. I think the next time, if you're willing to come back on, is I would love to hear what kind of home therapy methods that you were drawn to. I hear a lot from readers and things, but from a creative, a friend, it would be so fun to hear like, what was your experience with home therapy? anyways, thank you for joining me and sharing your heart and your creativity. And I hope you come back soon.
I loved this, Anita. I feel like my cheeks hurt from smiling. This has been so fun. And yes, I will come back whenever you want. Whenever you want, I'll be here.
I love it.